Okay, hello guys. Good evening. I am Victoria Inibili, and this is my first live class with you guys. So today I'm going to be talking more on HTML, right? Last week, if I'm correct, you guys had two classes, one by Ninyo and one by Silver Codes, and they really dealt with those topics well, right? Ninyo introduced HTML to you guys properly, and Silver Codes did a lot of work on HTML validations and forms, and then it touched tables, right? So I want to believe that you guys are well grounded when it comes to HTML, at least. If you guys should be very good to an extent. So today I'm going to talk about some few things. Like, I noticed that when it comes to tables, presently now you guys have an assignment on tables, right? And so many people are still confused about column span and row span, right? And then I'm sure many of you have not wondered about nested tables, right? So, but before I start, I would like to talk about some theoretical stuff like HTTPS, www, URL, domain name, and then special characters and HTML. So yeah, first things first, I need you guys to know that we're all humans, right? And we don't know it all, right? What I mean we don't know it all, I mean research is good. Google knows more than us, right? Google has a lot of information. So what I'm trying to tell you guys right now is you all have to improve your research skills. It's good to ask questions, but it's not every time you ask questions. Like, you have to sometimes go online, try to research things, try to see how you can solve issues yourself, because that's what really makes you a developer. Being a developer doesn't mean you know everything. Like, you can't possibly know everything. You can't possibly cram everything. We have, for example, when it comes to colors, we have different colors. You can't possibly cram all these things at once. We have different tags in HTML. You can't, it's not everything you remember, right? But what makes you a developer is the fact that you can actually code something and it works, right? So anyhow you make this thing work, it doesn't really matter if you say, okay, you want to cram everything, fine, that's up to you. But research is good. Research is good. As a developer, when you are developing, you research no matter what. There will always be something that you want to remember. There's always something that you want to search about, right? So as a developer, it's good for you to learn how to research. I'm just saying it so that you guys know that you have to be good at research. So yeah. So let's start. Let's start right away. So talking about HTTP. Yeah, before now I released a video where I introduced frontend and I talk about HTTP, right? I said HTTP is a language used to communicate between the client and the browser, right? It is the full meaning is hyper oh sorry. So yeah, HTTP is the language used to communicate between the client and the browser, right? The client requests for let's say a web page from the browser, and then the browser responds to it. The communication is done through HTTP. Now I'm talking about HTTPS is because there's a difference. We have HTTP and we have HTTPS, right? The S there means secured. The S there means secured, right? So we have websites that are using only HTTP. These HTTP websites, right, they're not as secured. You can use this website when you want to do things like probably watch videos online, get download pictures and stuff like that. You are safe actually, because this HTTP, they actually send their request in plain language that we all can understand. For example, this is a normal request. This is a normal HTTP request, right? And this thing here, as you can see, it's English language. We can understand what is here. Then when it comes to HTTPS, it is secured in the sense that requests are made. Requests are made to the browser to the client server, right? But the requests are encrypted, right? So let's say an hacker is trying to hack a website, and then it's trying to see the request. This is the way the request will appear. It is encrypted. You don't get to understand what the browser is requesting from the server, right? So that's the difference between HTTP and HTTPS, right? So let's talk about the World Wide Web. The World Wide Web is just what we have here, right? It's just everything here. this is part of it. It's just things you can see online. It is an interconnected system of public web pages accessible through the internet, right? So you browsing using the internet, you are all accessing the World Wide Web. And then we have URL. This thing here is a URL, right? Simply means Uniform Resource Locator. It is a text string that specifies where the resource, such as web page, video, and co, can be found on the internet, right? So that is what this URL means. That is what it does, right? Looking at this, this is a URL. And then in terms of URL, what we call domain name, right? In your URL, you can see the domain name. This www.55techterms.com. This is a fully qualified domain name, right? Yeah. So this is a domain name. This is a web page. This is a URL, right? This URL is going to display this web page right here, and this is a domain name there. This is HTTPS showing that it is secured, right? It is secured. This is a directory. This www is simply the host name or machine name, just like what I explained, www, right? And looking at it, breaking it down, this is the registered domain, right? This is the registered domain. All of them together is a fully qualified domain name, while this thing is called the top level domain, right? So that is it about URL and domain names. So we have what we call HTML special characters, right? This is my portfolio, and if you look at this, for example, looking at this, we have Victoria here in between this normal HTML tag brackets, right? So what we used to produce these things here are normal HTML tags, right? But normally, if you go to your Visual Studio Codes and you want it to appear as you want it to appear on the body, it's not going to appear, right? Because once you start typing, HTML starts seeing it as a tag, right? So what we use for that is the HTML special characters. So we have so many HTML special characters. For example, now this, what I just showed you guys, if I want to do that, is just let's use a p tag first, and we have and lt then let's type Victoria slash, I'm in a class, please. So right, this is just it. This and LT with semicolon and LT semicolon allows us display this the brackets, the normal HTML tag brackets, right? So let's, if I go live, open with live server. Oh, sorry. This is supposed to have a G there. Sorry. %GT, not L. All right, my live page, and then we have it, right? So this is because of the HTML special characters. And then we have so many others. We go here. So if you just type on your browser, just HTML special symbols or HTML special characters, you can see so many of them. For example, if you're a mathematician, we have symbols that you can use for all. This is pi. If you come here, we have alpha. We have Greek letters. And then you see, most times if you go to different websites, you see this symbol at the bottom of the page, at the footer part section of the page. This is uncopy. These are the codes you can use, right? You can type them this way, or you can use numbers, right, to get these special symbols. So that is it for HTML special characters. So let's talk about column span and row span. So I'm going to be sharing my, let's say, be side by side, right? So yeah. So row span and column span in tables. So first of all, I'm going to be creating a 4x4 table, and then we're going to use this table to really understand how column span and row span works. So the normal structure of a table, we have the table first of all. After all, it's a table, so we have to have the table tag. Now, when it comes to tables, we have table head, we have the table row, and then we have the table column, right? So the first thing you do, I like to properly space my stuff, right? So we have the table row. The table row is the first thing you put in there. Then inside the table rows, right, that is where you have your table head or table data, right? So I said we're creating a 4x4 table. So meaning that I have 4 rows and 4 columns. So can use shift alt down to get to duplicate your stuff. So we have 4 rows here, right? We have 4 rows here, and then in each row I want to have 4 columns. So in each of this row, I'm going to make 4 columns, right? So I'm going to come here, on this again, and then I'm going to start. First of all, since this is the first row has to have the table head, which is the TH, and each table has only one table head. You cannot have 2 table head in one table. Like it's not logical, right? So this is table head. Let's say the first in the table head, I want we're going to be having 4 table heads, right? So the first table head is going to be our column 1. And then let me just duplicate this 4 table heads. So we have column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. So now you can see it going, you can see it on my lifesaver, right? As I'm typing, it's displaying, right? But it's displaying without any lines, right? So we're going to give it a border so you can see our table structure. We're going to give it a border of 1. Right, so that is it. We now have a border, and this is it. Currently now we have just 1 row displaying, right? Because I've not typed in anything here. So we have column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. That is 4 columns. So now let's go to the next row and put in our table data. So for us to understand better this table data, I'm going to be using numbers so you can really understand what I'm doing, right? So the first table data should be number 1. Let me duplicate this. So 4 columns, right? 4 columns. Each row has to have 4 columns. And we have number 2, number 3, and then we have number 4 here. And then for this row, we have number 5. So let me duplicate this. Yeah. So this should be 6, 7, 8. And then for the last row, we have, oh, sorry. For the last one, we have 4 columns too. 9, 10, 11, and 12. So right now we have our 4x4 table, right? We have our 4x4 table, and now want to use our column span and row span. First of all, you need to know that the column span and the row span, these are attributes for only the TD elements, right? When I mean TD elements, I mean the data section elements. So you can use row span in the TH section, like all these TH tags. You can use row span in all the TD tags, but you cannot use row span and column span in the TRO. These attributes are meant for these parts, right? These parts. So yeah. So now we have 4 columns and 4 rows, right? Let's make row 1 have 3 columns only, right? We can decide to merge here. Let me make this, let me add width to top. Let's see. Let's take 70% of each. So I've added width to my table, right? I've added width to my table. So now let's make this row 1 become 3 column. So row 1, right, which is the table head, has column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. Now, using column span, we can make this row, this column become 3. Column span just simply means like merging 2 columns together. So you can decide to merge 2 columns together. If you merge these 2 columns together, definitely we'll have 3 columns. Or you can decide to merge these 3 columns together. You merge these 3 columns together, we'll have just 2 columns, right? So, but let's merge only 2 columns together, first of all. Let's merge 2 columns together. So the whole idea behind this column and row stuff is to just it's a way to structure your table, right? And the thing about it is, once you are merging something, for example, now I'm merging 2 columns, meaning that we're making 2 columns become 1. You have to that means you have to delete 1 column, right? Because if you are merging 2 columns to become 1, these 2 columns now, these 2 columns, if you merge it to become 1, it means that column 1 will take in the space of 2 columns. And then if you're not having 5 columns for something that is supposed to contain 4 columns, you now start having extra columns that is not well structured in your table, right? So once you merge something, you have to delete something. So if you merge 2 columns, you have to delete 1 column. If you merge 3 columns, you have to delete 2 columns. If you merge 4 columns, you have to delete 3 columns. So your table can still be properly structured. So now, I want to merge column 1 and column 2. Since I'm merging column 1 and column 2, it means that the merge is starting from column 1, right? So meaning that the attributes will be in column 1. So I'll come here, TD. This is where you put in the attributes. So TD, just column span equal to 2. Are you seeing what has happened now? So now I'm merging these 2, I'm merging column 1 and column 2, right? But what's happening now is that it has merged though, because see these 2 boxes, these 2 column now, they are under column 1. But see what's happening. I've not deleted the column I merged, and see now we're not having extra column in a very disorganized way. So what we have to do now, we have to now delete column 2 because I've merged it. I've given the space of column 2 to column 1. Now that I've deleted it, we can see that our table is well structured, right? So we have 3 columns now. So the same thing applies to row span, right? So in row span too, you can make 1 row span another row, right? You can merge these 3, or you can merge these 4. You can merge as much as you want, right? That's row span. I say row span. That's row span and column span, right? So now let's merge. Let's make column 3, right? Column 3, under column 3 now, we have under from row 1, this is row 1, this is row 2, right? In this row 2 now, I want to make row 3. I want to make column 3 under row 1 have just one row. That is, I want to merge these three, meaning that the row span will start from box 3, right? That's where the row span will start from. That's where the row span will start from. When you are spanning something, horizontally, right, it is the row span. When you're spanning vertically, it is the column span. So when you're spanning vertically, it is the row span. When spanning horizontally, it is the column span. So let's go to number 3. Number 3, right? So I want to do a row span here. I want row 3. I want number 3 to span through 11. So I'm going to do a row span of 3. You see? So now I've done row span here, right? So under column 3 now, I have just one row. If I have just one row under column 3, it means that this, if I have just one row under column 3, it means that the extra columns, because here now is supposed to be like 3 columns, right? Here is supposed to be 9, 10, 11. Here is supposed to be 5, 6, and 8. Now that I've spanned through, it means that I've reduced the column for these two, right? I've reduced it instead of 4 columns now. Instead of 3 columns. Sorry, this is row. What am I saying? So now I've actually taken away 8 and 12, right? So right now we now have just a row. We have just a row under column 3. We have just a row under column 3, right? So since we have spanned, right, we have to delete these 2 extra boxes, right? So the reason why I'm using number is because sometimes this thing can be confusing, right? So if you want to make a structured table, or you want to make a table where you use column span or row span, the best thing for you to do is to structure your table first before you start imputing data. You don't just come and create one row, you start imputing data, and then you create the other rows. I prefer it this way. You structure your table very, very well. You know what you have in mind before you start imputing your table data. So right now, it means that I've reduced the rows under column 3. So I've reduced the rows under column 3. So meaning that I have to take out these boxes, right? I have to take them out. So now my table is okay. So once you are deleting anything, like I said, once you are spamming 2, you delete 1. Spamming 3, you delete 2. So I've spammed 3 now, and I just deleted 2 boxes, right? So now we have a column span here, and then we have a row span here. So let's do on that one. Let's do a row span here of 4 and 7, right? So the row span starting from 4. So definitely we have to go to where 4 is, right? And we have to impute what we want to impute in TD, right? So we want to do another row span. So we'll do a row span. For us to do this row span, for it to go up, well, we have to delete a TD from the next row, right? We have to delete a TD from the next row, and then now we can now do our row span. Row span equals to 2. And then 4, this has spanned this, right? This has spanned this. So now, before I proceed, like there's this question on Slack. People are asking regarding the assignment. What does it mean for total scores to span, to have a column span double of scores. So let's say year now. Let's say this place now. We have it as okay, this is one. Let's say year now, let's say column 1 now. Let's say, for example, column 1 is our scores. Let's say column 1 is our scores. Oh no, let me not use this, please. I have my reasons. Column 1. So let's say number 1 year is the score, right? Let's say this is our score section, right? This is our score section. So now, and yeah, you have been told that total scores should have a column span times 2 of scores. So this is total scores. What does it simply mean, right? This one now is just 1 column, right? This is, don't forget that this column 1 is like 2 columns. This one now is like 1 column. This is another column, right? This is another column. When they said total scores should have a column span times 2 of this, it just simply means this one is spanning, this one is just 1 column. Since it's just 1 column, total scores should now be 2 columns merged as one, right? 2 columns merged as one. That is, total scores now should now be this and this as one, right? And then if it's the other way around, if score has to be 2 times of this, then you just have to make this score span 2 columns, right? And then it will be double of total scores. So that's just it. I'm not going to be doing that because that's your assignment, right? But that is the whole idea. So make it times 2 of anything you give score, right? So if you are giving score, for example, using width now, if you are giving score a width of 20 pixels, it means that total score should be 40 pixels, and it's logical, right? You have scores, you have total scores. Total scores, the space for total scores should be bigger. Just do it that way, right? So just make sure you are spanning times 2 of what you have in total scores. So even of what you have in scores. So even your scores normally, you are merging 2 columns as one as scores. It means that in your total scores, you should be merging 4 columns as one, right? That's just what it simply means. So now let's talk about nested tables. Let's talk about nested tables. So in HTML, we have what we call nested tables. Nested tables. Okay. Make I'll put this. Make this. Just have it that way. So nested tables. So from the name, nested tables. What does it mean to nest something? It just means to put something inside something, right? That's just what nesting is all about. So in terms of nested tables, it's just like this number 1 now, this first column now, just like putting on that table inside this first column, or putting on that table inside this spanned column, right? Hello. Paula, please mute. So nested tables, right? So it's just like putting on that table inside on that table, and you can keep on nesting as much as you can. You can put in like 5 tables inside each other. You can put in one here, put on that one inside that one, put like that, keep on nesting as much as you can, depending on what you want to do. Now, first of all, I need you guys to know that yeah, we're learning how to use tables, right? But when it comes to CSS, there are so many things that you can use to structure a page other than a table. We have grid, flexbox, and so on and so forth, right? But it's just good you get all the concepts, right? You get to know how to use every single thing. That's why we're really teaching you guys how to use tables. So yeah, in terms of nested tables, let's build something really simple. Let's make a table. Let's just make this table 2 rows and 2 columns. So yeah, we have a table. We have a table. And then we have row 1. No, we have row 1, and then I'm not going to be using table head here. And then we have row 2. So we have 2 tables, right? So we have 2 rows in this table. And then I want each row to have 2 columns. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to come here and make 2 columns. Let's come here and make 2 columns. So let's give our table a border so we can see what we're doing. So let's give it a border of 1. And then this table, I want to give it a width of 80%. That is, the table should take 80% of my page. %of my page. That's 80%. And then let's give my table a height of 500 pixels. 500 pixels. So now my table has a height of 500 pixels. So now since my table has a height of 500 pixels, right, and I have 2 rows, it is only logical that each row takes 250 pixels, right? If I don't divide the pixels between each row, it will just follow the shape of anything I put inside, right? And I want both rows to have equal heights. So I'm just going to divide it myself. I'm going to divide it myself. I'm going to give this one a height of 250 pixels. And this one to a height of 250 pixels. A height of 250 pixels ish. And then for our width, 80%, right? Definitely, this is a table rule. This is a rule, right? So the table rule definitely is from year to year. You should definitely take the 500 pixels. Each row is taking 500 pixels for the width. But the column, right? The column, I want to divide it to so that both of them share the same width, despite the image I'm going to put in or anything I'm going to put in. So I'm going to divide my width here. So you see the width goes to the CD store. I'm going to make it 50% ish. So I'm making it 50% ish in the sense that this whole thing is 80%, right? I'm calling this thing 50% with regards to the parents, to the parents width, which is 80%. The whole table is 80%. So I'm saying this place is taking 50% of 80%. I'm saying that this place is taking 40% of the table of the table width. That's what it simply means. So don't get it twisted, right? So 50%. Cool. So now, no matter what I put inside here, both of them are going to share. They are going to have the same height and width. No one is going to be bigger than the other, right? So let's put in something here. Let's use paragraph tag. So let me just put in a paragraph, right? This is a paragraph, right? And then let's put in on that paragraph here. This is another paragraph. Yeah. So we have 2 paragraphs there. Now let's do a nested table here. A nested table here, right? So this so I need to know that when it comes to nested tables, if you're putting a new table, you have to put it in the table. You have to declare it in between the TD tag or the TH tag, right? You want to put a nested table in your data edge. That means you have to put it between the TH tag. But you want to put the nested table normally, TD. You have to put the nested table in your TD. You can't be putting nested table in your row, in your TR. You have to put it in your TD, right? So let's make a nested table here. Before we make a nested table, I want to just let the whole world know that I'm making a nested table. So this is, no, let's say this cell contains a table. So let's make a table here. So now inside my TD, I'm not going to start with another table, right? I'm going to start on that table. And normally the table structure now, the first thing you do, you write your table, you put your table tag, and then you put the CR, your table row first. So let's give it our table. Let's just make it simple: 2 rows, 2 columns, right? So let's say Victoria here. Oh, sorry. Let's give a let's make it just 2 rows and 2 columns, right? So let's first of all, let's give our table a border so we'll see what we are doing. So a border 1, let's give it a border of 1. And then this table, now how big do I want this nested table to be? I can give the table a width of 100%, means that it's going to cover the whole space here. Okay, let me put in the table data first so we can see the way this thing works. So this is my row 1. I want to give it a 2 table data, 2 columns, right? So we have Victoria here, and let's say Inibili here. So this is 2 column. Now I need you to know something. When it comes to table, if you are giving your first row 2 columns, it means that you have to give your other rows 2 columns. Then you cannot come back and span if you want to span. But at first, when you're creating table, let all of them have the same equal columns to make your work structured, right? Then you cannot come back and span what you want to span if you don't like the fact that all of them have 2 columns. So let's say Noni and let's say Andy. So we have created our nested table. So now I can give this my nested table a total 100% of, remember this table has 50% of 80%. That is, the table has a 40% width, right? 40% width of my whole page. So if I'm giving this my nested table 100% of the parent table, it means that I'm just giving it 40% basically, right? So 100% width. See, it has taken the full space here. That's if I want to do that, but I don't want to do that. I want to give it let's say a width of 70%, right? A width of 7. So that's my table. And then I can now come here. Basically, I can do whatever thing I want to do. Then inside this Victoria now, okay, this is taking a width of 70%. Let me make it 80%, right? And making it 80%, let me give this table a height. Let's take 30% of, no, let's take 50% of this table, of the parent table. So that is it. So now that is, I've created a nested table. Inside this nested table now, I can still put another table. In this part where there's Victoria, I can decide to put another table here again. Right? I can decide to put another table again. CD 1. CD 2. Let me just copy this. Copy. Let me paste it. And then for us to see what we did, a border of 1 pixels. And you see, I've created on that table, and I can now give this table again a width in percentage, right, of the parent table. So let's say, say 50% of the parent table. And it's taking half of the space. So that is it for nested tables, right? You can do a lot. So let's just complete our table. We can now for this part number 3, we can add let's use our special characters, right? This is our special characters. So let's say a paragraph tag. Let's say this cell contains HTML special symbols, right? HTML special symbols. And can now go ahead to type in our special symbols. So let's use a list. I'm sure I've taught you guys lists. Let's use a list, and unordered list. So for your list, right? You have to, when you declare your unordered list, you have to put in your list, right? So I can still use a shortcut. Let's say I want 3 lists. I can do li times 3, and I have 3 lists, right? And then this 3 lists, okay, now let's make my list. Let me make my list 4, right? So we have different HTML special characters. We have this one. We have and NBSP semicolon. If you notice, all these special characters end with semicolon, right? This NBSP simply means empty space, reserve the space for me. So nothing is going to appear there, right? Then let me put some other symbols. Clara. We have another one. We have another one. right? So yeah. So if you notice, everything is still maintaining their space, right? They're still maintaining their size. If I even come here and add a text, let's use lorem, right? Say lorem times 30. Oh, that is a lot. That is that is a lot, right? That is a lot. That is a lot. So I've pushed it too much, right? So let's just leave it at that. So let's say yeah, I want to add let's say I want to add an image here. So image tag is open-ended, right? It's open-ended. So we have the source attributes, the source and I have an image here which says I am Victoria. So I can just add my image. Yeah, so I am Victoria JPG. I have to make the width 100% because my picture has its width normally. So I have to give it a width of I have to give it a width of that is I have to give it a width with respect to my declared width, right? So I'm giving it 100% of my declared width. So it's taking the full space, right? And then taking full space and then give it a height of 100% so it doesn't follow my picture 100%. So that is it. So when it comes to tables, we can actually style our tables. We can add colors. We can do quite a lot when it comes to tables, right? We can we can basically transform this table into something else that you're not even going to recognize. You're going to be like, wow, right? But we cannot really do everything with HTML. That is what brings us to what we have to the limitations of HTML, right? So HTML has limitations. You can't really do everything with HTML. HTML is limited, although you can do some styling with HTML. For example, now this width now, it's kind of like a styling, right? I'm I'm dividing my width in between the columns, right? But you can't really do so much with HTML. HTML has limitations, right? With HTML, you cannot create dynamic content. You can't really design things. With HTML itself, when you're typing, you don't get syntax error, right? You cannot create interactive web pages with just HTML. That is why we have other things in front end development. We have other things like CSS and JavaScript. So CSS is what we'll use to transform this table into a very, very beautiful piece, right? But we are going to introduce CSS next week. We're going to introduce CSS next week, right? This week is just for HTML. So, but yeah, but as developers, you can really go and explore. You can check out different things and start exploring CSS. We're going to officially introduce CSS next week. So when it comes to colors, when it comes to colors in when it comes to designing our table with colors, we have different colors, right? We have different colors. We have so many different colors. Some of them is like we have so many different colors. The ones with names that you may not have heard before, right? So this one, papaya whip. We have different colors, right? But these colors, we can really utilize them with CSS, not just with HTML. And then when it comes to colors, we have different ways. We have like 3 ways that colors can be used. We have our normal color name: black, silver, gray, calling it by name. And then we have 4. We have 4 ways. We go here. We come to W3 schools. You see, as developers, you just have to learn to navigate, like find your way around the web, right? We have W3 schools. We have normal colors, using their names to design, right? You come here, look at this example. Look at this example here. Looking at this example here, so we have you can see here that they're using inline CSS. We have here style background color equals to Georgia blue, right? So basically, you're designing with CSS, but this time it's inline CSS. So you're calling it with the name. But you can also use RGB. RGB simply means red, green, and blue. Red, green, and blue, right? So in terms of red, green, and blue, we have like different intensities, different shades, right? For green, we have 0 to 225. For blue, we have 0 to 255. For green, for red, we still have 0 to 255. So meaning that using RGB, you can combine these colors in different ways using depending on the intensity, right? From 0 to 255, we have different intensities for each of this color. So combining them together, right, you can have different colors from this. You can have different colors. You can have up to 16,777,216 colors, right? Then we have you can always check out W3 schools, right, to see how you can use these things, right, to practice. Like I said, as developers, you have to be good at researching. You see all these many things here. We have so many tags, we have so many colors. We can't possibly show you how to use all the colors. Imagine we have how many colors? 60 million plus. We can't possibly show you how to use every single thing, but we're always here to guide you, right? So you can come to W3 schools, practice sometimes. We have hexadecimal, using hexadecimals to name your colors, right? So this is RRGGBB. Hexadecimals, meaning that we have numbers mixed with letters, right? Numbers mixed with letters. So you can always use hexadecimal. This one is an hexadecimal value for this color that we're seeing here. This is the hexadecimal value. This one now is 0000FF. This FF simply, this is the highest value, right? So I have 00 for, remember, it's red, green, and blue. We have 00 for red, 00 for green, and they have FF for blue, meaning that there's no shade of red and green here. That's why we have pure blue here. So that's how hexadecimal works, right? Then we have HSL, hue, saturation, and lightness, right? So just use hue, saturation, and lightness combine, and you get different colors. See this one, we have 0, 100%, 50%, and it gives us this beautiful red color, right? So that is it. There are so many colors here, right? And all these things, all these colors are for designing, right? And we're going to be using them mostly with CSS. That is what really allows us to design and bring our pages to life, right? So you can always check out W3 schools to learn more on your own, but definitely we're going to be here to guide you. We're going to have classes and all that. So yeah, so that is all for today. That is all for today. Yeah. So let me be sure I touched what I wanted to touch, right? Yeah. So by now, I believe that those people having issues with column span and row span should be able to resolve their issues now, right? In fact, at this point in time, you should not have any issues with column span and row span again. If you have issues, you can always go back to the table and you can always remember the shortcut, right? If you are column spanning 3 columns, it means that you have to delete 2 columns. Row spanning 4 rows, it means you have to delete like 3 rows, right? So anything you are spanning -1 of it, delete the rest. So yeah, so that is it. So are there any questions? Are there any questions? I hope to see questions pertaining my class. Nino, are you there?
Yeah.
So are there any questions we can handle? Hello?
Yeah, I'm trying to check the comment section for questions.
So you see, these are different ways to, this is just row span and column span, right? If you come here, you can see a lot of example. And then one thing about W3 schools, right? If you click here, try it yourself to give you a box that you can edit things here and see how it works. You can just come here. Let's see what happens if I turn here to 3. What happens if I turn here to 3? What happens if I turn here to 3? See what happens. See what happens. We have the table disorganized, right? You can just come here, practice, and like that. So that is it. Can go through a lot here. And then there's one exercise here. So use the correct HTML attribute to make the first table edge element span 2 columns. What's the correct attribute? The correct attribute, you are doing column span, it should be column span, right? Column span equals to 2, right? Simple. Column span equals to 2. Show answer. Correct. So you can basically do a lot online. Okay, so pertaining your assignments, somebody is asking, what do they mean by each table data and table row having a class attribute? So it simply means you should just add a class attribute, right? You can class attribute and ID attribute, right? You use them, they are selectors, right? You use them when you're using CSS selectors, right? When you have let me just let's look at this class and ID attribute, right? So you use them when you're using CSS selectors, right? You just pick them, you use them to pick elements, right? Or to pick a section, to pick elements that you want to style. right? So in as much as we have not taught you guys CSS, you can still explore CSS. But for the instruction, they said you should add a class attribute and ID attribute. That is it, right? They said just add it, right? You can add it, but it will be logical for you to still use it. So you can explore CSS by using the class attribute and ID attribute. If you don't want to explore, you can just add it. The main thing is that you should add a class attribute and ID attribute to all the TR and TDs, right? So if you come here, you can see, look at this, look at this. This is an H1 tag, and you can see that this H1 tag has an ID. As an ID, IDs are unique, just the way everybody's ID cards are unique. We have unique numbers when it comes to our ID cards, right? That's the same thing. IDs are unique. So you say it's H1 tag, this H1 tag has an ID called myHeader, right? Meaning that you can use this myHeader to design this H1 tag. You can just come here now using CSS. You can come here now using CSS. Let's look at it very well. You come here now using CSS, you can see that this thing now, this H1 has an ID, myHeader, right? If you come here now, they are calling myHeader. This is under CSS, right? This is a CSS selector, CSS ID selector, hash header. This is where you put ID, hash header, and then we're giving it a background color blue. You see now that we're using this ID selector, right? We have an H1 tag here, we have an H2 tag here, we have a P tag here, but only this H1 tag with this ID is getting designed, right? It's having light blue, color of text black, padding 40 pixels, text align center, right? This is just how ID works. So add ID, and when I mean ID is supposed to be unique. So if you're adding ID myHeader to H1 here, you cannot come to H2 here and be adding ID as myHeader again. You have spoiled it, right? You have spoiled it if you do it this way, because it is no longer unique. So each ID you are adding should be unique. Why class can be multiple. Two elements can have the same class. You can come here and say class equals to people, and then you can see copy this class. What am I doing? You can still copy this class and give it to another element, right? So class, two elements can share the same class. So once you just come here now, let's say, let me change this thing to class now. Change to class. If you want to call class, you have to use dots to call the class. So dots to call the class, then the class name, dots people. If I run this now, we can see that these two elements now are having this same attributes, right? Class. So you can add, so just add class and ID to your table, CR and TD according to the way the instruction was given, right? So, but you can still use it using the CSS, you can explore it, right? So you don't have to wait for us to teach you CSS before you start exploring it, right? So, somebody's asking, can we use Decima to display column span? So like I said, these are things that you can easily check online to see. So it is very clear. Column span doesn't accept decimal numbers. So if you just go on Google and just search these things, you see that there's no point asking, because you can just easily search online and get your answers. This column span doesn't accept decimal, and really, how do you expect it to accept decimal, right? Because we have each column 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and you just want it to span like that. So it doesn't accept decimal, right? So just span with all numbers, right? Span with all numbers. So let me see if we have other questions I can attend to. What do you mean by today? Do they have, what do they mean by ish? Okay. Sunshine, what if you want to display the deleted data? So what do you mean by deleted data? I don't think I get this question. What's if you want to display the deleted data? If you have deleted something from your table, it should not display, right? If you have deleted something from your table, it should not display. If I have this and then I go and delete 3, nothing will display definitely. So if you have deleted your data, you have deleted it. If you want it to display, go and type in what you want to display back. So, except I don't understand your question, right? So, but yeah, like I said, I'm Victoria Inibili, and I am on Slack as I am Victoria. So you can always chat me up. I'm always available to answer your questions. In case you remember any question later, you can always chat me up on Slack, and we have we'll tackle it, right? So that is all for now. Thank you all for attending. I hope you all understand Collins Fan and Rosecon now, right? So if you don't understand very well, you can watch this video again, or you can simply go to W3 Schools or on MDN and just get more information. Remember, that's what makes you a developer, good research skills, right? So thank you very, very much. This is the end of the section.